Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah, the statistics shows my ballistic flows generate big cake, not big candles. That spaghetti them O's. I'm so ready, how them pack my clothes. I'm so heavy with no D. How them boys, I rock them gators more than gun beat boys. I'm the real raw deal, y'all just still decoys. Like
So, and it transformed from fiction into realism, even though it is a work of fiction.
For that green like for Rick, no, not from New Orleans, but can you see me, homie? In mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check. Check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, look around, left, right, up and down.
So in the time before everything starts, and the second book kind of gets into the very beginning of it, and then the third book kind of ends up the first phase of what happened.
My target audience when I wrote it, in my head was were basically teenage girls that had read Twilight and were sorry that it was over.
From this reason. And they are innermost beings arsenic.
But you're the bus driver, yeah, there he is, I was like, that's cool, it's like we're made for it.
Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't.
Thank you. Welcome to another great show of APN TV Media. We have a lot in store for you today. As a matter of fact, we have a real treat today. His name is Dr. Douglas Weiss. Okay, he has a PhD in psychiatry. He's a psychologist. Thank you, Bob. Of course, you know Bob Beatles. He's always so straight to be out here, and I get tongue-tied. You know how that goes. Anyway, nevertheless, Dr. Weiss, he's written multiple books, we'll talk about, but also he has been on Oprah Winfrey Show, CNN, Dr. Phil, 2020. He's been on a Montel Williams Show and many others. Okay, and besides that, he's been there's a lot of magazines that he's been on, and as well as one special. For some reason, I was stuck on this from last night, since this morning, and I was talking to my wife about this. Was the Lifetime movie network, and you know what? It didn't even dawn on me on the Lifetime movie channel that it was about him, his life. In other words, he has a British documentary. He also has there's two movies, and one that we all probably know by now. It's called Sex, Lies, and Addictions. That was the movie on Lifetime. I believe I'm saying that right. Sex, Lies, and Addictions. If I'm saying it wrong, he'll probably correct me when he comes on. So anyway, without further ado, you know what? There's a lot in store that I've got to do up here. And guess what? I think I need to sit myself down now, huh? What do you think, Bob?
That'll work.
How about that? Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome back. You know what? Actually, Dr. Weiss, are you with us?
Hey, Stephen, how you doing?
Doing fine. You know, I had one thing, down pat because until I saw your resume, and then I said, whoa. I said, oh my gosh. I said, oh, I must let him speak out about his resume. But it was Sex, Lies, and Obsession. The other one was Sex Addiction. Was Sex Addiction another movie as well?
I can hear you, Nick.
I'm sorry. Was Sex Addiction another movie as well?
No, it's called Sex, Lies, and Obsession. Sex, Lies, and Obsession was the movie sexual.
Okay, Sex, Lies, and Obsession.
Yeah.
But okay, but there was another one. Something said Sex Addiction, and then it says British. I'm sorry?
That was a documentary in England. A couple came
okay, so
doing a real intensive on sexual addiction. It's very powerful.
Okay, so that's the British documentary.
That is.
Okay, excellent. Also, you were on USA Today, Ellie, Red Book, Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, U.S. News, and World Report. Very good.
And APN. And APN.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Now you got me giggling over here. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, and here on APN TV Media. I do have some questions for you, but you know what? I want you to be honest. Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, we're going to be talking about sexual addiction. So, a lot of people think that, maybe I grew up with a silver spoon or something, but actually, I was conceived in adultery. My mom had an affair, got pregnant with me, ended her first marriage. The guy abandoned her, found a third guy in a bar. His last name is Weiss. And so they got married, then they got divorced a few years later, was put in foster homes, was brought out, about maybe 12 or so, let's see. She sent me off to a Salvation Army camp there. I had a spiritual experience and got saved. But then what happened is I grew up and she thought I needed a sex education. So she gave me this college textbook about this thick. And I don't remember the words, but the pictures were helpful, and became fully sexually addicted early, and then got sexually abused after that, a couple years after that, went fully sexually crazy. And so I know what it's like to be a out-of-control sex addict, alcoholic, drug addict, and I've been sober from all of them now. Sexual addiction, I've been sober now for 29 years. And I take a polygraph to verify that. So there's been no behavior, no pornography, nothing outside of marriage. And it's been great to be free. Free is good.
Wow. Yes. 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 Oh. Whew. Yeah, I've noticed you had on both your websites, and one of them that I was looking at, and I was like, my gosh, it's really a serious matter. I was looking at that. I hope I'm saying this right. Intimacy. Anorexia.
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy, anorexia, and I was looking on it, found myself studying up on this, and I was just like, oh my goodness, incredible.
Yeah, that's actually, we might get into this later, but there's 6 types of sex acts, and that's one where intimacy anorexia is the active withholding of spiritual, emotional, and sexual intimacy from your spouse. And so if you're married to someone and you feel alone, you feel like you're a roommate, you feel like you're begging to be loved or wanted or even to have sex, and you're being criticized all the time and blamed, I mean, it's really a real deal. They withhold love, they withhold praise, they withhold sex, they withhold spiritually, they won't talk about their feelings, they keep themselves so busy, they blame you for all the problems in the relationship. I mean, if someone's got 5 or more of those characteristics, intimacy anorexia is very tough. I have a couple who flew in, they fly in from all over the country here to Colorado Springs and see us, and they're doing an intimacy anorexia intensive this week. And so it's tough because someone doesn't want to open their heart, you can't make them.
Do me a favor, please. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to those 5 characteristics. Can you name those again?
Yeah, it's actually, I think there's 9 or 10. So I'll give you the keywords.
Wow.
The keywords are really easy to remember. Busy, keeping themselves so busy they have no time for you, but time for everybody else. Blame, they blame you for all the problems in the relationship. Love, they withhold love. Praise, they withhold praise. Spiritually, they withhold spiritually. Sex, they withhold sexually. Feelings, unwilling or unable to share their feelings. Anger or silence, they use anger or silence as a way to control in the relationship. They may control or shame around money issues. You feel like a roommate in this relationship. And so you really do feel married and alone. And if that's you, then that's definitely probably what's going on. And especially, if they're not connected with you sexually or it's been months or longer, you probably want to check out intimacyanorexia.com because there's a lot of help. I mean, people can get better. We're about helping people get better marriages, better lives, and free from sexual addiction, and all of that's possible if they do the work. And so even if they're stuck in that part of it, they can get better.
Wow. Wow. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. There was a lot of home run hitters in there. I mean, that was easy. It didn't even take an Einstein to. I'm glad you explained it. That the simplicity of it that they share with all of us, to the common person.
A lot of people they're married for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and they can't put a language to it. Intimacy anorexia gives you a language for why you're unwanted, why you're rejected, why when you're in public they'll put their arm around you but they won't touch you when they're at home. I mean, it's insane, but it helps give a language to this insanity to a lot of people. It doesn't matter what country they're in. We've had people from every continent talk to us about that because they see the intimacy anorexia thing on YouTube or an article that's been thrown all over the internet and they're like, that's me, that's my husband, that's my wife. I'm begging to be loved here. I don't know what to do. I'm in so much pain. So that's a whole issue that a lot of people struggle with, regardless of their faith. It doesn't matter where they are in the world or what faith they have. It's a very painful thing.
Wow. Wow. Well, on that note, we'll be right back after this.
Watch it. Got the riffs on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamont. Wow. Yeah.
When I look up to the sky and see the universe, I have to stop myself and wonder why it's so hard for me to find a world that thinks about more than simply me, myself, and I. It's something I can't see, but for now we'll have to be in my book of dreams. In my book of dreams. In my book of dreams.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Yes, actually, that was one of the. You know what? That is a top-notch question that I looked at between what's the difference between sex addiction and. You know what? Actually, can I ask this question to you, Dr. Weiss?
You can ask anything you want, Stephen. I'm pretty good at answering questions.
All right, thank you. What is the difference between sex addiction and someone with a high libido?
Well, that's actually a pretty good question, because it's not about how often we're having sex, because someone with a high libido is connected with you emotionally, they're connected with you spiritually, you feel present with them, and it feels like it's about connecting or making love, and it's mutually connecting. With the sex addiction, it's like scratching an itch. It's like chasing an itch. There's never enough. The other person feels like an object. Oftentimes the addict is in fantasy world. Oftentimes the addict has a secret, whether it's pornography, self-behavior, or behavior with others. And so addiction is about medicating either your emotional immaturity, pain in your past, things that are going on, stress, and it's a way of just escaping. Where true sex and connection it's a place of connecting and giving. It's not a place of just taking. And so it's a big difference. If you're struggling with sex addiction, you know it. You know you tried, you know you cried, you might have prayed, you might have talked to somebody, but you can't break it, shake it, and so that can be a real problem.
Wow. Wow.
So which one you got? No, just kidding.
I tell you the truth, you have my head spinning right now, and I'm questioning myself. Woo! I'm definitely going to be checking out your books, because there are some pointers in there. Actually, to be honest with you, while you were sharing the different types of being a sex addict and the difference, I was looking within myself, and I kept telling myself, how can I be a better person to my mate? Do you see how it just transformed like that? What you just shared that for that few moments, all I kept thinking about was, how can I be a better mate?
Yeah, well, I've written 5 marriage books, and there's a new one coming out. So you can definitely be a better mate. But we haven't really talked about the different types of sex addicts, because we only talked about intimacy and anorexia. Like the different types of sex addicts, you've got the biological. That's the person who has self-behavior with pornography or fantasy and attaches their brain neurologically to the sexual stimulus and becomes addicted to the object stimulus instead of a person. The psychological sex addict is someone who's been abused, abandoned, neglected, and they're medicating the pain in their soul and trying to fill it through sex. The spiritual sex addict is someone trying to fill the God hole with sex, and that doesn't usually work real well. Then the sexual abuse sex addict is someone who is reenacting their sexual abuse in a sexually compulsive manner. And then we talked about intimacy, anorexia, sex addiction. And then the last one is a mood disorder with a sex addiction, like bipolar, manic depression, or depression. And they're trying to use the sexual release, which is the highest level of endorphins and enkephalins your brain gets, to medicate a biological absence. And so those are the 6 types of sex addicts. And people can have several of those. I mean, it's, when I come into my office, we do telephone counseling with people all over the country and world. So if they call our office, they can find out what type of sex addict they are. They go on the website and find it there. But in usually about 10, 15 minutes, we can tell you what kind of sex addict someone is. And it really helps for them to understand how to get better, because most people don't think they can get better because they've tried and failed.
Interesting. Just to back up for a second, give me a second. Kyle? Okay. I had to throw that at everybody probably laughing right now looking at this, because it was just a feedback. Anyway, I want to go back to something I thought I heard you said, biological options.
Biological sex addict. Yeah, what happens is
Interesting.
oftentimes when guys are teenagers and now girls are getting introduced to pornography, what happens is when you have a sexual release, Stephen, you get the highest level of endorphins and enkephalins. These are
Yes.
brain chemicals that hit the excitement center of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. And whatever you're looking at during a sexual release, you literally attach to, glue, hunger for, and want again. Basically, ring the bell, feed the dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog. And what happens is they sexually condition themselves to object relationship sex. Not person, but object. And so they're disconnected during the sex act. And sometimes when someone gets married even, they have to close their eyes and go to a fantasy place to be able to reach orgasm because they don't know how to have orgasmic connection with somebody. They have to go to the object connection instead of the person that's right an inch or two in front of them.
A substitution. Basically what that is.
I'm sorry, what?
It's a substitution, basically.
Absolutely. But it's bad because if your brain gets hijacked, you can actually prefer the unreal over the real. And that can move you into what we talked about earlier, the intimacy anorexia, where you actually prefer to be disconnected.
Understand. That also goes for like the magazines and things like that, the porno magazines and
all of it.
Wow. Okay, I have another one then. Wow, you sure explained that because that was the difference between that was sex addiction and then there's intimacy anorexia. All right, the next question I have for you: can someone be more than one type?
Oh, most people are, men or women. They can have an intimacy anorexia and sex addiction. They could be sexual abuse and sex addiction. They could have a mood disorder and have a sex addiction. They could be biological with the mood disorder who was sexually abused. Yeah, that's the fun of my job on Monday. And when someone calls in and does a telephone session with one of the counselors, that's the first 15 minutes of the session is, okay, let me ask you some questions. And based on these questions, we can find out what type of addict they are within about 15, 20 minutes. And then we know what to do with them. And then we can give them hope. Like, here's how you got here. Does this make sense? And this is why you're doing what you're doing. It's out of control. But now that you understand what you got, how you got here, there's a road out, and we can explain the road out. So it's very important to identify what type of sex addict you are. I mean, if you're going to be one, right?
Very good. Yes.
I'm sorry, man. Okay, great.
Everybody on the spot. It's getting quiet in here. Okay. I love it. Yeah, you something else, Dr. Weiss. That's all right. That's all right. You shared something with everybody. With everybody. I love that.
Why should our kids eat healthy? That's a good question. What happens when they don't eat healthy? Well, eating unhealthy leads to an unhealthy life. What can it lead to, you may ask? It can lead to childhood obesity, which leads to diabetes, high blood pressure, and also heart problems. It also can lead to our kids taking medicines at an early age and also extended hospital stays. How can we bring awareness to our kids about childhood obesity? How can we bring awareness to our parents about childhood obesity? Bringing awareness to our kids and their families about childhood obesity helps the whole family. Everyone is healthy and everyone is happy. I think I might have a solution. Follow me and let's see.
Know someone whose marriage has been impacted.
Yes.
knows someone whose kid is no longer with their dad because of sex addiction. Everyone knows someone who hooked up with someone on Facebook or some of the other social media sites, which should be protected. And
Oh, that's right. That's right.
so we have all these options to create mistakes. And when you're a sex addict, the environment is now so sexually saturated. It's a different world. So, we laugh and it's fun, but we all know someone who's cried about it. We have a sister or an aunt or a friend or a neighbor who, I don't understand why he left me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? You did somehow we were on the same page. You said, when you said it's a different world. And the first thing I was thinking in my head about that, when I was thinking in my head a different world, was the fact that it was the people who now, and I'm not against, saying people who does tattoos and stuff. I'm saying there's a certain point that pain becomes part of the addiction in the sexual activity.
Absolutely.
The piercings and stuff like it became something where that sexual addiction is drawn through pain.
That can happen no matter if you practice sex with pain, you'll be addicted to it. If you practice sex with, wearing opposite sex panties, you're going to be attracted to that no matter what you do. And so, what's interesting though is, 20 years ago, you didn't have people like I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and we tweet and we have all these things going on, but it runs through my office. But I can't tell you how many invitations on now. LinkedIn is a professional, social media thing. And I probably get 3 or 4 invitations of, hey, I saw your profile. I want to get to know you intimately and be your friend. From all, and they don't know that my secretary is looking at this click, whatever. Because, 20,000 people on LinkedIn, I mean, it's okay. But, we didn't have those temptations 20 years ago where people would just like from other countries say, hey, how you doing? You know? Bonjour.
That is so true. You're right about that.
So we got to protect ourselves. We got to be smart. You got to be smart about our technology, our cell phones. Most people listening to us right now, no matter what country they're in, they're carrying a porn store in their pocket, and then they hand it to their kid and say, "Now, don't do anything." I mean, what parent would walk their kid through a porn store? Oh, honey, let's go to the porn store today. What do you think, little 6-year-old Johnny? Oh, that sounds like a good idea, Mommy. And walk them through a porn store. But what they do is they give them their iPad in the back seat. Okay, or they hand them their phone, let them play a game. They get on the internet, and then they're looking at pornography. I mean, we just got to be smarter. There's a porn blocker on our website. Download that thing so that you can protect yourselves. Because not everybody wants to look at that stuff. I mean, I don't want to look at that stuff. It's sad that the actresses and actors that are on cocaine and distorted and been sexually abused and raped and traumatized, and it's awful what's going on, but they portray it as some kind of other drama. So, we just have to be smart today about what we're doing with our eyes sexually, with our ears and our hearts sexually, so that we don't get in trouble, because that can be a road you can take you longer than you want to go. You all know people who they would just go on Facebook and they're just chatting and we start to like each other, or they connected from someone they knew in high school. Listen, there's a reason why you leave high school. And you should leave high school when you leave high school.
They stuck. It's a shame. It's a shame. It is a different world.
Well, in my experience, most of the men I know who've asked for a divorce have asked for a divorce because of either too much nagging or not enough sex. It was one of the two.
But usually they're the problem. That's the problem. See, if a man doesn't connect with his wife emotionally, women are turned on by emotional proximity, not physical. Men are turned on by physical proximity. She just has to be in the room, okay? Women are turned on by how close they are to your heart. Most men don't learn the skills of sharing their feelings, praising their wife, and even connecting with them spiritually on a daily basis. I can guarantee you, I've had couples who haven't had sex in 10 years. Within a few weeks of doing, this is a different book, Intimacy, a 100-Day Guide to Lasting Relationships. Doing the exercise in that book, they're not only having sex, they liked each other. See, intimacy is a result of a known set of disciplines, and most men are too lazy to do the work to be able to get good sex. And they're too immature to be able to experience it because they're spiritually and emotionally immature. So when they go to sex, all they got is one gun physically, and they don't got all three powerhouses going into sexuality, and they blame their wives for why they're not having good sex. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's sorry.
That's okay. It was a great explanation.
Because guys will say, I'm not really I'm not really into my wife. I go, yeah, of course you're not, because you're over there doing things with yourself that you shouldn't be doing. If you stop that and you start connecting to her, you're going to think she is the bread of life. You're going to think she is so satisfying. I've had so many guys complain about their wives. When they became mature, they totally changed their perspective on who their wife was. And during that time, the wife didn't change.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Wait a minute. Reverse that. Say that again.
Okay, so you got a guy who's, let's suppose he's a sex addict, right?
Yes.
So he's immature because any addiction, alcohol, drugs, sex, food, whatever addiction you got going on, Stephen, it shuts you down in 3 categories: emotional, moral, and spiritual. So most of the sexually addicted people are about 14 to 15 in those 3 categories. So you got an adolescent trying to have adult sex. It's not possible. Okay? So when he stops his self-behavior or pornography or whatever he's into, and he actually gets sober, he matures spiritually, emotionally, morally, and then we teach him how to connect to his wife in those domains outside the bedroom, so then he can actually become a man making love to a woman instead of a boy making love to a woman being dissatisfied because he's not mature enough to have man sex.
Wow, that's deep. Yes, that's right.
So part of the problem is the man complaining because he's not mature enough to even participate in what's going on. And then when he grows up, and she's mature, she's having great sex, she's present, she's connected. Okay, so 6 months later, he's having sex with the same woman. She hasn't taken a sex class or anything. Okay, she hasn't changed, but he's matured enough to be able to enjoy what's really on the table.
Yeah, you tell the truth, you're speaking the truth, that's right.
So it makes a difference. So some guys think, I'm not hurting anybody. You're hurting yourself. I mean, most guys who are struggling with sexual addiction, if they get sober, if they control their own income, Stephen, now listen carefully.
Yes.
If they're salespeople, if they're entrepreneurs or business owners, they double or more than double their income in 12 months' time.
Wow.
That's how much they're hurting themselves. I had one guy did a conference in Florida, and I came back a year later, did the same conference. I was telling the guys, listen, if you'll stop playing with you and playing with pornography, your income will increase. So the following year I'm there, and this very tall Cuban guy comes up during break and says, Dr. Weiss, I want to take you to lunch. Well, I asked my host, it was fine. He took me to lunch. He says, I want to tell you something. I go, what's that? He goes, you were wrong. Well, I said, I'm not wrong often, but go ahead, tell me, explain to me. He says, my income didn't double. It quadrupled. I worked in a corporation, and I got several promotions in 12 months ever since I stopped playing with myself and playing with pornography, that my income quadrupled. So I had to take you out to lunch, tell you you're wrong, and thank you for being wrong. So it's costing you money. It's costing you time. It's costing you maturity. And so if someone's struggling, they should get help. I mean, they can call our office. There's lots of help with phone counseling, phone groups. We do intensives. There's lots of materials. You can go on the internet. We've got lots of materials, a free app, Dr. Doug's Tips for marriage and for recovery stuff, and for the spouse who's recovering, because the spouse is in pain. But these are happy endings. I mean, that's why I do what I do. I see so many happy endings, even though they start off kind of in that chapter in the hero epic where the hero's kind of all beat up and all dirty. But when you clean him up and you straighten him up, he's got no shame, he's got no guilt. He becomes a man again in his own story. And then sex is better, money is better, marriage is better, family is better. He can feel his kids hug him and let it in without shame, or that lie in the back of his brain that says, if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. That's a horrible way to live. I remember that. It's a horrible way to live.
Wow.
So welcome to my world, Stephen. What would you like to talk about?
On that note, we definitely be right back after this.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamont. Wow. Yeah.
God squats, unbelief, and it's wrong about
Quit. Well, quit if you want to, boy. But we need you out there.
That, you know what's funny is I've always thought about the past. Oh my gosh, and it's interesting that sex was becoming like a number one. It's almost becoming its own crime. Mm-hmm. From it's like it took itself out of the equation of making love to some type of.
Well, the secular training on sexuality that we've gotten in school separates sex from commitment, from marriage,
yes,
and it teaches you that sex is just an act. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Sex engages all of who you are with all of the other person, emotionally, physically. That's why you can get diseases, psychologically, spiritually. All that goes into sexuality. And so that attachment is so deep. I mean, we've all seen people that's like, how do they get together? It's because it's a one-night stand that they attach to each other. And even though they're bad for each other, they stay together. And so, when we talk about sexuality, and I have a new book coming out pretty soon, and it's very powerful about sexuality, and it really goes into that, how we're made different sexually and how to attach during sex. It's very powerful stuff. So having great sex, there's a lot of your audience that are not struggling with sex addiction, but how would you like to have a great sex life? I would get the intimacy book, 100-Day Guide. It teaches you how to stop arguing about sex, like how often we're having sex. It actually teaches you how to have a sexual agreement. And then there's a chapter on the garden. Decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, so you don't have to fight about it for 20, 30 years. Sex is a beautiful thing, and it shouldn't be marginalized to a handshake or a candy bar.
Does drug addiction and alcohol addiction lead to sexual addiction?
Not at all. But if you get drunk, you can get stupid. So, but sex. Addictions do run in dyads and triads. So your intuition's right. You see people that are multiply addicted, and with sex addiction, what happens is, unlike some of the other addictions, a lot of guilt and shame happens to you, and you create this secret world, and you begin to believe that you're unlovable, and that often can lead you to need other medications like you're talking about. So it's real easy for them to pair up multiply in someone's life.
Wow. You know what, I was thinking about that when you said the list. I was thinking also the financial, because I remember you said that earlier too as well, is financial difficulties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember I was sitting with a guy one day. He's like, I'm a millionaire, right? Mm-hmm. I go, I'm so sad for you. He goes, what do you mean that you're sad for me? I said, you'd probably worth be $10 million if you weren't playing with yourself. So
wow, yes, that's interesting.
Yeah, imagine how much more productive you would be if you weren't spending hours on the internet and you weren't feeling bad about yourself and you weren't keeping secrets. How much more clearer your brain could be working and how many more ideas you could have. I mean, when I've been free for a long time, I get ideas all the time on business and materials and products and other stuff. And so being sober is so worth doing. So if someone's out there and they're trapped, I would say, you know what, just experiment for a year and try to get sober and see how much different your life can be. And if you fail, you can always go back to being miserable.
Yes, that's true. That is so true. I have me wondering about between the drugs, that says sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but actually there's sex, drugs, and alcohol, and that tops everything off. That one key thing is sex. Everything revolves around with sex, but although they're separate. I understand what you're saying, Bob.
They interconnect. For some people, they're separate. Yes. For some people, they're interconnected. Like some people go do coke so they can go have sex with a prostitute. And so it numbs their sensitivity, it numbs their consciousness so they can do things that are otherwise distasteful to them. And so, yeah, multiple addictions are multiple problems, but you want to deal with, you definitely want to deal with the sex addiction, because oftentimes sex addiction leads you back to the other addictions because you're trying to, get sex with somebody. Well, where's the easiest place to do that? A bar, because
That's true.
It's not the brightest knives in the drawer there.
But it's the fastest and easiest way to get it. Once, get a few people that gets drunk or high or whatever the case may be, that sex is it's not even optional anymore. It's just sex. Have just actually wouldn't that even classify as another form of addiction?
Well, that is someone who's acting as an addict, because they don't even see sex as about a person. They could care less who the other person is.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah,
it's all about them. And if you're living in an all about you world, you probably have problems.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamont. Wow. Yeah.
When I look up to the sky and see the universe, I have to stop myself and wonder why it's so hard for me to find a world that thinks about more than simply me, myself, and I. It's something I can't see, but for now we'll have to be in my book of dreams. In my book of dreams. In my book of dreams.
You. I mean, who wants to be married to a 14-year-old boy who's in a 50-year-old body?
No,
He doesn't pick up after himself. He doesn't see things that be done around the house. He's out to lunch. He's on the computer. He's taking drives he can't explain. He's miserable because he's booty, because he just did X and he feels bad about it, so he ignores you. I mean, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's where that's what I was looking at, the effects of the spouse. The spouse, unless we're talking about the spouse in general, but all the effects leading to the spouse will feel disconnected, feel not wanted, those type things.
Absolutely. She feels very alone and disconnected. And some of them try for years and years and years to try to make this thing work. But oftentimes, they got their arms tied behind the back because they don't even know that their husband has a huge secret. I did a funny thing in Canada. I've done it to several places across the country. Yeah. I was speaking to about 1,000 women, and I was speaking to the husbands the next night. I said, here's what I want you to do. Go home and ask your husband, when was the last time he had self-behavior or masturbated? The second question, when was the last time he looked at pornography? And I said, every guy has an answer for both those two questions. Okay, even if it was 1983, he has an answer. Okay, just go home and ask him. Well, they did it because Canadians are kind of compliant, and so they did it. And, oh my gosh, there were so many changed lives because of the women got involved. Just ask those two basic questions. I mean, you don't have to wait for your husband to tell you. Go ask him. Make him lie to you, okay? And then let that sit with him for a while. Okay, but if you'll ask him, what'll happen is it can open the door to, hey, I'm really struggling, this is what's going on. Okay, well, let's block this, let's shut this down, let's get help. I'd rather get help with a porn problem than a prostitute problem.
And are there no women who are sex addicts?
Absolutely. We have a book called She Has a Secret and workbooks as well, and it's growing because women are getting on the social media, women are getting the pornography, women are having access to pornography they've never had before in world history. And they're also being seduced by the sexual pleasure and attaching their brain to an object sex thing, and they're becoming just as addicted. I had someone in our office just recently. I mean, the girl was 5 hours a day at some of her sexual addictive behaviors, and that's out of control. This is a very young woman, and so it's definitely growing. And so if there's a woman who needs help, we have intensives for them, and there's materials for them, and there's hope for them. It doesn't have to be this, and it's even worse because they have a lot more shame because girls are supposed to be good, and they feel really bad about themselves. But I would say, regardless of what you've done, there's help. If you want to take a different direction, you don't have to be trapped by sexuality. It can become a gift to you again.
Then how can they get the help for sexual addiction?
Well, our phone number is 719-278-3708. You mentioned the websites, drdugweiss.com. There's free newsletters. There's a free app, Dr. Doug's Tips. And there's lots of materials. I mean, this is not something that's in the dark anymore. I mean, we're out there, through the help of guys like you guys, sharing the message, and people are hearing it, and they're responding, saying, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I could get better. I always thought I couldn't. And once they hear that there's actually hope and somebody's free and that we know how to get people free, they actually make some steps, whether it's materials or a phone session with somebody or an intensive, and their lives are changed. I just talked to a couple here and on the phone today. And
yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamont. Wow. Yeah.
You ever had a dream where you just want so much for yourself, but you don't know how to get there because you don't have many options, but you do anything for your loved ones, your mom, your dad, family members, to the point you don't even know how to get there. You just know the ending result, but you don't even know the middle of how it's going to all happen. And you have to deal with waking up and not having stuff to aspire to, seeing boarded up homes and shattered dreams, and kids not even wanting to play outside. It's like my dad had the American dream of owning a home, which he did. In my small town of New York City, everyone has dreams, but too many are too scared to chase them. I don't want to focus on what society tells me I can and will be. I want to be so naive that dreaming is like anything that my mind creates, it can happen. I want to be fearless in chasing any goal I set my mind to. I want to catch anything that I feel like I deserve, that I feel that's owed to me for my diligence of hard work and being patient and always being at the moment. I feel like I'm always at the right place at the right time. Even my environment now, I know it's all for a reason. It's for me to inspire somebody to say they can do this and they can do that. To go after what you feel like you deserve. That's what I want to live for. And when I die, that's what I want to stand for. That's what I want my legacy to be. Is to be a dreamer. A dreamer of the boy who caught 22.
And they were here about a month and a half ago, and their lives and marriage are so different, and he's been free ever since he's been here.
Thank you. And actually, that's what I was going to share. The last question before we go to a closure here is your client, the life of your clients, the client's life that is different when they are clean for over a year. Do you see a difference in your clients after a year once they're clean and sober?
You can see the difference. I mean, not only are they having a better quality of life, they look brighter inside. They don't have shame and guilt and fear. They don't have that self-loathing and self-hatred that they're sabotaging their life anymore. They feel good about themselves when they get up. They got things to do, and they're enjoying real life, and they're tasting the food. It's like, a nicotine addict. They tell me that once they get off of cigarettes for a while, they begin to taste food again because they couldn't really taste it when they were smoking. And it's like that. The sex addict begins to taste life again, and he's having real connection with his spouse or her spouse and real life. And real life is really good. You don't need all the medicine.
I have something else, and this is a question that I'm putting out there, but it's not on here. But I need to throw out here to all of you viewers and to all the readers. Is it beneficial to, and correct me, please, by all means, if I don't have this in order, is to seek counseling as an individual first and then, or maybe I should optionize it. See counseling first. In other words, should a person come see you first and then bring the spouse with them, or they bring their mate, their spouse with them, and then see you afterwards separately?
Yeah, if they're going to do an intensive, it's best that the wife comes, that they come as a couple, because there's his recovery, there's her recovery from the pain of this, and then there's the marriage recovery. So there's actually 3 patients in the room, and it's better to treat all 3 at the same time. Some people come by themselves just because it's what they want to do. That's fine. But optimally, it's better for the wife to get the same amount of information, learn the same stuff, have the same tools, and then also in the marriage, they can practice the recovery tools together so that when they walk out, they have real tools in their hands to be able to do a marriage and sustain recovery at the same time.
And also, I was just thinking about that a while ago. They may create 4, you may end up with 4 patients in there because of one's abusiveness, mental abuse within the sexuality, being a sex addict, can create a paradigm to his or her mate, and they started getting into the habit and become in that arena of being a sex addict too, without realizing it, because of the loneliness. Is that correct?
That can happen for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, pain wants medicine, and so whatever medicine they pick, that's where they would go.
It's all about saving a relationship and save themselves from this type of addiction.
That's what we're about.
Outstanding. Dr. Weiss, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Weiss. Hey, Dr. Weiss, I would love to have you down the road. I would love to be honored to have you come back on the show again, if that's okay with you.
All right, just make sure you can hang in there.
I'm hanging in. I'm hanging in there. Hey, I'm absorbing everything, and believe you me, I'll have everything up there, for people to get help from
Thank you so much.
I myself still had a lot of questions because it intertwined with the intimacy anorexia, and I'm glad that you showed me the difference between sex addictions, the different types of sex addicts. Versus with someone with high libido.
Absolutely.
And then again, of course, intimacy, anorexia. So I was trying to absorb all that all at once and see, as you put it, separate, which I call book blocks in the publishing industry, are book blocks, but you put them in blocks in sections where they can actually be able to understand it better.
Sure.
I thank you. Again, I thank you for that.
Sure. All right, well, have a great day.
You too. Take care, sir.
Bye.
And you know what, everybody? We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah.
That was powerful. It over with humor. But all jokes aside, this is a very, very serious situation, a very, very serious problem about sex addiction. I believe that Dr. Douglas Weiss has presented to us something that was very powerful, which he separated them in a way where you have the intimacy anorexia,
Right.
which was blowing my mind because I was reading up on that, versus the being a sex addict and high libido. So I'm looking at 3 areas, but also there's more within that, and it's a lot more that we can't fill out in 1 hour's time. So I encourage you to be able to go to his website, okay, which is below the screen that you saw on here. Also, you can go to our APN TV Media website at www.apntvmedia.com, and you can go to and look up the tape. I believe it'll be tape 46, and go check them out on tape 46. That's our television website, and there will be some links. Also, by the way, I know I didn't mention it, but yes, I still did my homework. He has webinars on YouTube as well. Okay? So anyway, you know what? I'm glad we all had a great time today. I hope we learned something from this, because this is always educational. All right? So tell you what, I look forward to seeing all of you next week. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Take care, God bless, and have a good evening.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah, the statistics shows my ballistic flows generate big cake, not with candles that spaghetti them O's. I'm so ready, how to pack my clothes. I'm so heavy with no D, how them boys. I rock them gators more than Dundee boys. I'm the real raw deal, y'all just steal decoys like them duck hunters, runners, blowing whistles, making noise. It's official, tell them nizzles, I'm the dizzle, flow sizzle, folk shizzle. I'm off the hizzy, busy signal. I got that hustle muscle for that green like the for brick. No, not from New Orleans, but can you see me, homie? Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, look around, left, right, up and down. Ain't nobody like me. Wrist so icy, colors like iced tea. Them diamonds get pricey. Got rich now, everybody so nice to me. I'm a whiz kid, Doogie Howser. Just like the game, snatch your dame, I'm Bowser. Spit hot flames, stay sagging in my trousers. Even on church day, the preacher like no way. And Miss Jenkins like, Lord, take them demons away. In my headphones, Jesus walks by Kanye. Macking to a chickie, trying to get some kissy kissy. You can nibble on my neck, but no hickey. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Baby, I'm the bomb diggy. Girls be begging for another chance like I'm Biggie. I run the city, call me P. Diddy. My life's Whoopi Goldberg, it ain't nothing pretty. It's been a long time coming, this ain't happened quickly. Overnight, try more like over and over until the morning light. Steady trying to get it right.